Hello everybody. In this video we're going to look at factoring quadratic trinomials. In the last video we looked at factoring quadratic monic trinomials, so that's where the leading coefficient was 1. But in this case we'll change that. We're going to make it a little bit more general, a little bit harder. It only adds like 1 or 2 extra layers to the problem, and it's overall the same thought process as before. So let's get into it. Let's start with an example. So for this first example, we'll say that we have 3x squared plus, here let's make it plus 1 and 16. Okay, here we go, sorry. Alright, so I came up with an example here. We've got 3x squared plus 16x plus 21, and what we're going to do is we're going to start by considering the 3 and the 21. This is the A, B, and C. So here this method is actually called the AC method. The name isn't very clever. It's because you take A times C, you compute that first, so we do 3 times 21. When we do that, that gives us 63. So now what we want to do is we want to take the number 63, we'll write it down here, and we're going to consider all of its factor pairs. And we want, in particular, to get the factor pair for which, when you add the two numbers together, you get 16. So let's just go through and list them. I guess one thing we can notice is that we don't really have to consider the negatives because it has to, it would have to be 2 negatives multiplying to give us positive 63, and 2 negatives couldn't possibly add to 16. So really we can just only consider the positive options, so I'll start listing them now. We have 1 times 63, we've got 3 times 21, and I think the only other one is 7 times 9. Do a quick double check on that, but that should be right. And now we're going to look in all these factor pairs, and we're going to take the one where the two numbers would add together to give us 16. Well, 1 plus 63 is 64, 3 plus 21 is 24, 7 plus 9 is 16, so this is the one we want. Alright, so now we're going to retrieve these two numbers to 7 times 9, and we're going to, just like before, we're going to split the 16 up into 2 pieces, the 7x and a 9x. I'll write it like this: 3x squared plus 9x plus 7x plus 21. Okay, now again we do the same thing as before. We split this into 2 groups. Consider the first group. We take the greatest common factor out. Here we see that we have 3x squared and 9x. The greatest common factor of 3 and 9 is just 3. The common factor of x squared and x is x, so we have 3x we can pull out there. And what will be left over is x plus 3 plus, and then on here we have a 7x and a 21. Notice that 7 goes into both 7x and 21, so we can pull that out, and we get x plus 3 again. Now we have an x plus 3 in common here, and x plus 3 in common here. Again, that's not a coincidence. We can factor that out from each of these 2 terms. So pulling that out, what you're left with is 3x plus 7. Awesome. So we started with the quadratic trinomial 3x squared plus 16x plus 21, and we factorized it as x plus 3 times 3x plus 7.